Hey everybody, it's me, Nicole Rivera, and I am here getting ready for one of my Zoom calls that we have in the Stop Writing Alone community. So if you've only been on the YouTube channel, then you probably just know me for writing prompts. But back in stopwritingalone.substack.com, every single month I release a calendar of events of all different types of writing activities that are going on throughout the month. And for this week, the first thing that we had going on is writing practice based on the practices of Natalie Goldberg, as she first writes about in Writing Down the Bones, but continues to write about through all of her books. I've been to a number of workshops with Natalie Goldberg and learning how to do the process myself. And I'm doing my best job to try to turnkey it for people who come to Stop Writing Alone. So today I wanted to give you a little snapshot of what that is. And basically, if you know anything about Natalie Goldberg, you know that she is a Zen practitioner. She's always done her meditation, and she likes to pair that with writing. For those of us who are writers, it's very often in her workshops, people are asking, like, how does this apply to my writing? When does this become a novel? This is really a practice. Just as a meditation practice is a thing that you show up to do every single day to reconnect with yourself, reconnect with the world around you, to be present. That is what writing practice is. How it translates directly to your writing depends on how it shapes you as you use it from day to day. It's threefold. If I have this correct, did I do my counting right? We have a meditation, we have a listening piece, we have a writing piece. Is fourfold. We have a read aloud. So, what we're going to begin with is a silent meditation. And when I've done this with Natalie Goldberg in her workshops, we've gone as long as 30 minutes of silent meditation. With the group, I usually go anywhere from 3 to 5 minutes, depending on everybody's comfort with silent meditation, how new you are to it. So for today's practice here on the channel, I'm going to just do a 3 minute silent meditation for you. And then what comes next in the past was simply me sharing a topic. And we would use the topics from Natalie's deck of cards, the Writing Down the Bones deck. However, in the workshop with Natalie Goldberg, oftentimes our topics came from things that she read to us. We would do readings and we would use that as source material to sort of come up with topics for the day to write about. Since we've exhausted the topic deck in Stop Writing Alone, I've started to do the same. So today I'll read aloud an excerpt of a short story, and then we will, from that reading, select some topics to write about. And the writing is just basically like a free write. Um, you just go. You let your hand move, and it is handwritten. You get yourself a piece of paper or a notebook and a pen, set a timer for 10 minutes, and write on the topic. And try to be as specific as possible. Think of real details instead of saying, um, I walked under a tree. I walked under the sycamore. You want to really talk about colors, details, specificity. That's the kind of stuff for me as a practice that translates into my writing. Because the more I show up to do this over and over again, when I show up to my passion project or whatever I'm writing this week, I'm sort of trained to think of the sycamore before thinking of the tree. And I'm really looking to dive deep on those details. But there's so much to be gained from this whole entire practice, whether it is that detailed writing or the practice of listening, which is so important to us as writers. The final bit when we are in a group is that we read aloud what we have just written. And this is slightly different than how we read aloud when we're in a writing prompt party and Stop Writing Alone. Because when we're in a writing prompt party and we're writing fiction based on prompts that I just threw at you, we're really we know we're in a vulnerable space, and that remains true here. However, we're looking to cheerlead one another and find each other's strengths of like what comes to the forefront when we write first drafts. Whereas in writing practice, our job as listeners is not to think as writers, but simply to listen, just to attune that part of our writer mind, the listening bit, and just to take in the words. And as the person who is reading aloud, it is our chance to meet those words again and almost for the first time, because since writing practice is such a free write, it's such a, a mania out the pen that sometimes you don't even know what you're writing until you read it aloud. So, in writing practice, when that read aloud happens, uh, the piece is written and there is no comment except maybe thank you. And then we move along to the next person to read aloud what they wrote. So, that is all, and it's beautiful. I mean, when I've done this with Natalie Goldberg, we had hundreds of people in the Zoom call, and I would be, grouped with people from all over the world, and it was um, always somebody new, always meeting somebody new, and that was it. It was this quick moment of we never even really got to introduce each other. We just met each other through our words, and then they were gone. It's very had that feeling of impermanent art, like the sand art that the mandalas that are made and then blown away, and you're like, oh, it's gone. It was beautiful and it's gone. So that's kind of what we're looking for with writing practice. And in Stop Writing Alone, we typically have 3 or 4 of us in a group, and we do that read aloud without comment, and we thank each other, and we move on from there. So yeah, so that's writing practice in a nutshell. But I think if you are ready for it, I think in this moment we could potentially try to do this. It won't have the same impact as we are not here together, but writing practice is something that you can do on your own. Of course, the read aloud element um is not necessarily there, although I do find I get help if just reading things aloud to myself. Um, but let's begin with a silent meditation, and we'll just do 3 minutes. And if you haven't done silent meditation before, and to be honest with you, before I did it with Natalie Goldberg, I hadn't either, because any meditation practice I had ever done had always been um, to a mantra or some guided meditation. I was always listening to something. Silent meditation hits different. So if you have a very squirrely mind, as many writers do, right? We're always imagining. Remember that the goal in meditation is not necessarily to clear the mind in sense of a blank slate. We all understand that that's sort of impossible. Our mind is constantly going. When a thought or something comes to you, that's absolutely fine and that's natural. That's what happens. The goal of meditation is to not grab hold of it and then follow it to wherever it's going to lead you. You're basically going to allow a thought to come and then release it. And so Natalie always gives us 2 different things that we can focus on to sort of help us remain in our space and not follow those thoughts around. One is that you can anchor your thoughts to your breathing and just really focus on your inhale and your exhale, and keep your mind on that inhale, exhale. If that's not enough, and I know there's many people that that's just like, okay, I'm always breathing. How is that going to help me? I can't think about my breathing. The other option, and I always found this one really cool, is to focus on or anchor your thoughts to the sounds around you. So once it goes silent here and I stop talking, I'll often hear cars drive by, or this is a 2-family home. I will hear the dog upstairs or somebody walking, and that is something that I can say, oh, the dog is walking, let it go. A car drove by, great, that's a car, that's a bird, but not, I wonder where that car's going, I wonder who's driving it. Just saying, almost mentally saying the things that are that you're hearing to acknowledge and release. A third tip that I give to writers that show up to stop writing alone is something that I have found to help me, and that is to focus on my body and to try. And this comes from my Reiki practice of just really trying to bring my whole body to the present. And so oftentimes, especially if I've had coffee before writing practice, if I'm feeling super energetic and I need to chill down, I will begin my meditation by focusing on relaxing my head, relaxing my forehead, because you don't even remember, you don't even realize, I should say, until you do this, how much tension you hold in places like your forehead. So I'll just begin and try to sit straight and just say, okay, I'm gonna relax my head, relax my forehead, my eyebrows. Of course, I'm not normally saying this out loud. This is all going on in my head. And I will go all the way down, eyes, nose, cheeks, chin, neck, shoulders, big one, shoulders, chest, arms, fingers, and that you go slow enough that can take you through your 3 minutes. So I'm going to set a timer. You will see a timer here. I'll probably make the whole screen a timer for you so that you're not distracted by whatever faces I might be making during my 3-minute meditation. But let's begin with a silent meditation, and then I will, when we come out, introduce you to the reading of today, and we'll go from there. Okay. Take a deep breath, sit, you know, take your posture as comfortable as you can, but sit up. Or if you're not going to fall asleep, if you want to lay down flat and be present in your meditation, you can do that as well. You want to be comfortable but alert. You don't want to fall asleep. Okay. Happy meditating. Here we go. Okay, that was our 3 minutes of meditation. At this point, I want you to stay in that state, stay relaxed where you are. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to read aloud just a portion of a short story. Um, and and again, when I've done this with Natalie Goldberg, we've read classics. She's usually focused on a particular author through each workshop. We've read Proust, we've done Hemingway, we've done a number of just modern authors that she's into. We've read fiction and poetry. And I've been trying to do the same with Stop Writing Alone, just bringing all different types of writing. And what I had for this week prepared was no, it's not the latest. I was going to say the latest issue, but the November issue of the New Yorker has a short story within, and it's written by, I roll my eyes. Let's see if I can read closer. Yoko Ogawa. It's called The Beauty Contest. I'm sorry, it's just called Beauty Contest, not The Beauty Contest. I'm going to read aloud. Right now, your job is to just sit and listen. It's like story time. Relax. And if you are intrigued and want to see where the story goes, I'll put a link in the little doobly-doo for where you can get this story, this issue. Take a look at this issue. Okay. My mother had 2 treasures. One was an opal ring, the only present she ever received from my late father. She kept it in a small box and took it out only once or twice a year on special occasions for a few short hours. The box, which was covered in deep blue velvet, made a sound like a little kitten yawning when it was opened. When I was alone in the house, I often opened the box to stare at the opal. This wasn't expressly forbidden, but, child that I was, I somehow felt it was better done in secret. The ring was old, a fact that was apparent from the state of the box. The cardboard had begun to show through in places where the velvet covering had been rubbed thin, and the address, printed inside the lid, mentioned a street whose name had changed when the town was rezoned. The ring was embedded in a wad of cotton batting that was stiff and discolored, and I worried that the unpleasant wrapping might be bad for the gem. But it never occurred to my mother to change it. When I looked at the opal, I was invariably reminded of ice cream, in particular, a flavor called Starry Night, which was sold at the candy store in front of the station. Vanilla ice cream flecked with orange, pink, yellow, and pale blue chips of ice. The packaging, too, was quite attractive. An aluminum container as big around as baby's head, covered with silver paper stars. The containers were lined up in a freezer case near the store window. But, needless to say, I had never tasted Starry Night or even seen the real thing. I had only glimpsed the plastic sample displayed on top of the freezer. In fact, I had never had so much as a cookie from that shop, which was far too expensive for us. I would set the ring on my pencil case, or hold it up to the fluorescent light, or even try it on for just a moment. But it was too large for any of my fingers, and as it dangled from my hand, I felt that it was much less appealing than a scoop of Starry Night. I always returned the ring before my mother came home. I would replace the cotton and close the lid of the box, taking care not to leave any finger marks on the velvet. The other treasure was a newspaper clipping that she kept in a plastic sleeve. The paper was stained and curling at the edges, but you could still make out the date, November 30th, 1962, as well as the photograph of me as the winner of a baby beauty contest. Unlike the ring, this treasure was often brought out to show others. Whenever relatives or friends or anyone at all came to the house, if the topic of conversation turned to me, my mother would produce the clipping and talk about it in a tone that suggested she hadn't thought about it in a long time. Most people were kind enough to respond by exclaiming, "How sweet!" But they were clearly uncertain what to add to that. So they were forced to feign interest and pretend to read the article while my mother went on about the judges' criteria, the number of contestants, the prizes, a set of wooden blocks from Europe, and a carton of baby formula, the scene in the auditorium, the reporter's questions. Aged all of 8 months, I appeared in the picture with a large cape knotted under my chin. Since I was still in diapers, my frilly little skirt was all puffed out. Head tilted bashfully, I was eyeing a lollipop that someone had put in my hand. As precious as the clipping was to her, my mother had apparently never bothered to read the article on the other side of it, though I knew it almost by heart. On the evening of the 28th, blank, 72 years, made sukiyaki for her family from mushrooms she had gathered in the mountains near her home. And on the morning of the 29th, her husband, blank, 76 years, her daughter-in-law, blank, 39 years, and her granddaughter, blank, 6 years, all presented symptoms of poisoning. They were transported to the local hospital by ambulance, and blank are still listed as in critical condition. The police have sent the remaining mushrooms for identification. The rest of the article was cut off. But whenever my mother brought out the clipping, I remembered the little girl who had been given poisonous mushrooms, and I felt sick to my stomach. Again, this is just the beginning of the story. All I've read here is the first two columns before the first story break, so there's plenty more. I mean, we need to know what happens next. But for now, I want you to sit with that and think about what details, lines, thoughts you can recall from that reading. And notice I did that without preparation, did not tell you to listen so carefully. So right now, I want you to I'm going to set the timer again, and I'll do it really quick. We'll just do 1 minute. And I'll do the same. Jot down any quick thoughts, again, quotes, lines, details that jump out to you from that reading. Okay, that went quick. The idea here, and this is part of the practice, is that as we become more accustomed to listening in this way, knowing that we are constantly seeking out these details or lines or what have you, is that we become better listeners, and we start training that part of our brain too. It's always really, really difficult for me to do this when I'm the one that did the read aloud, but just a couple of things that I jotted down, and I don't think I got a full line like I typically do. Starry Night, never saw the real thing, rubbed off velvet on the ring box, opal ring, gift from her late father, tilted head looking at the lollipop. Uh, you could have gone in completely different ways. If we were here in a group together, I would ask some volunteers to read aloud, perhaps what they pulled. And as a group, we would decide, is there something really intriguing there? Do we want to write about gifts from people gone before? Do we want to talk about the texture of velvet? Do we want to write about Starry Night? This is where we pull our topics from. And of course, I could have prepared something beforehand and saying, based on the theme of this, I think we should write about secrets. Oh, actually, that's pretty good. Maybe that's what we'll do. Let's write about secrets. So the next step, and I realized that I don't even have my notebook out, is to have a piece of paper, a notebook, and a pen to write for 10 minutes on a topic. So when we write, we just keep our hand moving. If you are familiar with Morning Pages from The Artist's Way, it's a very similar sort of way to show up to the page. You're just going to keep going, keep the pen moving, If you ever get stuck and the timer's still going, you can begin again. There are no rules here. If we start writing about secrets and you start writing about whales in the ocean because somehow your thread of thought took you there, you just keep going. You just keep going. This is not, I think that's why the discussion of, how do I use this in my story or how do I use practice to get to publication? That's not a part of this discussion right now, because if it is, if we're thinking about publication, if we're thinking about our passion projects, then we are trying to have our writing fit into some mold. What we want to do right now is just right. We want to take this energy of this topic and this reading and write. And I'm already talking too much. So I'm going to put a timer of 10 minutes on the clock, and we're just going to do one topic so that this video isn't even more epically long than it already is. And you are going to write about secrets. Top of your page, topic is secrets, and just write for 10 minutes. And I will grab my notebook while this timer gets started. Happy writing. Okay, I was talking and I was muted that whole time. Lovely. Okay, let's start again. So the timer ended. And what we do at the end of the timer is we basically, if we're in group, I normally just give you a second topic. I say, draw a line on your page, write for 10 minutes. And at the end of that, we will then read aloud. Since we're not in group, I'm the only one that can read aloud. So I will read for you what I wrote on the topic of secrets. And, there's, again, no judgment here, not from you, but also not from me. Typically when we're in group, we say, that this is a safe space, and whatever we hear here, whatever we hear here stays here and stays with us. This is, it's a privacy thing. A lot of oftentimes very personal things come up when you truly allow yourself to let go. Uh, I know I'm on the internet, so whatever happens here happens here. I'm okay with it. So, topic secrets. I must admit, on its own, when I hear the word secrets, I feel there is a negative intonation there. My natural inclination is to not think of the joyous secrecy life has to offer. It's like I completely abandoned the idea of love-inspired surprise parties or perfectly planned and plotted gifts, only to be opened and revealed at a special date and time. I seem to forget all the added joy delivered when a secret is kept close and precious in this way to accentuate the experience of the person in the dark. I guess this must mean in some way that I don't like secrets. Secrets mean leaving someone out of something, even if it's for their future pleasure. Oh, even if it is for their future pleasure. Doesn't the saying go that it is not the destination, but the journey that matters? The person in the dark only meets us at the end for a fleeting moment of joy, absent from all the tales of trickery and plotting. Do they feel left out of that? Hilariously, these are not activities I enjoy, party planning and plotting. So it does seem that this is something I would want to miss, doesn't it? Secrets. I know I am missing a much deeper dive here. Perhaps I am not going for the jugular, as Natalie encourages us to, because I know I will be reading this on the video. That's when the time went off. I guess getting out my notebook slowed me down a bit. But um that is all. Did I do nope, I'm not gonna judge anything. I was gonna ask questions, just gonna say thank you, and that is that. In writing practice, once we finish reading, we are done for the day. And it is often just for me, a very sort of like solemn place, because I've listened to many different perspectives on multiple topics. And yeah, so that's it. Writing practice. We meditate, we listen, we write, we listen again, we read, and you do that over and over again, and you do it for yourself, topics are so simple. You can pull them from anywhere. You know, they don't have to be out of readings. You could just walk around your house. You know, I'm drinking coffee. Let me write about coffee. Let me write about water. Let me write about blue skies, gray skies, anything. Anything can be a topic. And it's different than a prompt because I do feel like the word prompt encourages us to have some completed thing at the end of it. And maybe that's just my own internal definition, where a topic is just, you know, I think back to Saturday Night Live when Michael Myers would say, "Here's your topic, discuss, discuss." It's a starting point and it gets us going, and it lets our writing mind be free in a way that we don't often allow it. You know, one of the things that happened to me as a young adult is that I stepped away from my writing because I did not want it to be my work. I wanted to always have writing in my pocket as a place to release and be free. Um, and now, as writing becomes more and more of my work, it's you have to make a concerted effort to make sure that you can allow writing to still be there for you in these other ways. Journaling is definitely one of those ways when you have a little private secret journal. Oh my gosh, I could have write about diaries and journals. Oh my goodness, secrecy. Um, but I do feel like this is another way where my writer brain gets to stretch and do different things in that way. That is Nicole's sloppy interpretation of writing practice. I highly recommend all of Natalie Goldberg's books. If you ever get a chance to be in one of Natalie Goldberg's writing workshops, Shambhala Publications usually puts out the announcements about those when they come. I cannot recommend it enough. Please do yourself the favor and see if you can do that. I'm hoping to do it again later this year. But for now, that is all from me. Head over to stopwritingalone.substack.com so you can see this month's calendar with all of our events going on, and you will see writing practice show up there because it is something that's very important to me. So I bring it to the community at least once a month, but I have been stretching to try to do it twice a month now. So if you enjoyed this, again, you can do it on your own. You can do it with your local writing group or whoever you are meeting with. But if you want to do it with me again, that's where you can find out the next time that I'll be doing it. So have a lovely day and happy writing. And thank you for joining me today. Hope to see you soon. Bye-bye. Head to stopwritingalone.substack.com to join today for more live events and writing inspiration all year round.